So thank you everyone for joining us for this first webinar. It's a pleasure to be back in 2026 and setting the focus for what's to come in 2026 for all of you and all of us as well. So this time I am very lucky to be joined with two of my guests discussing a bit about product development and the collaboration between product development and all of the exciting ESG goals and legislations coming our way, and how a brand can work with that internally in their brands. So I'm just gonna see there. So today I will of course introduce our guest first of all, and then we're going to run through why sort of this precision is very important and why it's becoming very critical in this year and of course the coming years as well. Then we're going to dive into our brands joining us today, the collaboration as well, and of course some practical takeaways in the end. Now, as usual, the Q&A is also at the end, but you're very welcome to ask questions during the presentation as well. There is a Q&A, just write your questions in there, and then we'll answer those either at the end or during our presentation, but just pop in your questions there. Good. So I would like to introduce my guest today. I have Robin with me. Hello, Robin. Thank you so much for joining. So
Hi, everyone.
the Senior Product Developer of Panormal Studios.
Yes.
And I have Fabian as well joining me. Hi, Fabian.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Impact and Responsibility Analyst at Panormal Studios as well. And my name is Anja Padget. I'm the CMO and ESG expert at Delogue, our PLM system, hosting these webinars each month, diving into some different topics that we feel can be relatable for whomever is watching, our brands and our customers. So thank you so much for joining us. All right, so let's try and look at, so to speak, the precision matters in 2026. I think we've all been experiencing the many past years that we've been going through this very much need of trying to be more precise with what we're working with. I think it's also a matter of sort of trying to having those sustainability goals that we work with, the legislations that we know are there and are coming, and implementing them as well in the daily lives of what we work. We know it's a fast-moving industry that we're in, fast calendars, a lot of things that have to be done, a lot of different tasks that you all have out there, and that then has to be fit into all of the different works that you have to be doing as well. So I think the reason for also trying to focus on that today is about trying to sort of navigate in the collaborations that has to be going on in the teams that are working in the brands between the different departments, not the least the product development, and of course the people that have the responsibility of the legislations and ESG goals. So if you could just start off, both of you, to sort of, when we look at this year compared to probably the past years, what feels sort of most different if you compare to that? What's different now? Has it changed a lot? Can you maybe try and elaborate on that?
I think what I feel mostly is this demand by regulations that have been much tighter and much more information we need to gather. And I think companies really need to prepare for this and sort of adapt their processes in that. And I think it also goes then towards the value chain. We're requesting a lot of information from our suppliers when it comes to environmental aspects, but also the safety of the product. We're talking chemical safety, for example. So these aspects, they have been increasing, and I think they will be increasing in future. And this demand of information that is coming and that is needed has really changed. I think it's coming more also in this year, but we already felt it in the last year, and it will probably be more in the next couple of years as well.
How about you, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, what Fabian's saying is totally true. And I think on consumer facing also, you know, we have to be more transparent. Like, people are requesting more and more information about products, and yeah, that's totally legit. And I mean, we cannot sell products anymore without really seeing what is it from, even when the base material is from. I know that Fabian has been working a lot now, you know, for all our cotton line to make sure that cotton is sourced at proper places. And as he said, also certificates. I mean, on more Panama side, we also opened our China, like I think it was last year, Fabian, right? End of last
Yeah.
year. And of course, for us also in product development regarding testing and certificates, it's like a new market for us.
Yeah.
So even more demand on all certificates and tests. And also for us in product development specifically, all the new restriction on chemicals also impacting us a lot. We are a pretty graphic brand, let's say, with a lot of logos. And we have been experiencing some new difficulty in the supply chain, right? When our silicon suppliers that supplies our factory logos have changed recipe, but we don't really know, and then impacting us cascading into bulk production. So that's also have been changed quite a lot. We always have the example of, oh yes, my rain jacket from the 90s, 95 is still working pretty well today, and why the one I bought 2 years ago, it's not working that much anymore. But yeah, this big chemical switch has been quite a challenge for us, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And if we dive in a bit more to sort of talking about Panama Studios, if you could give sort of the brand, who are you, and maybe Fabian can talk a bit about your approach in terms of sustainability.
Sure. We're a Copenhagen-based brand. We're known for the performance and technical cycling gear and cycling products we make. We are targeting towards a dedicated cyclists, the ones that we see it in the middle picture, the ones that are on their race bikes out there in all weather conditions and love to race their bikes. We've been, I think last year we had 10-year anniversary, and we've been, I think, since then growing quite a lot. I counted this morning, we have 8 stores around the world, coming from San Francisco, in Taipei in APAC region, and very recently, as Robin already told, opened our first store in Shanghai, for example. So I think we're always a brand that thinks very global, and we try to chase the dedicated cyclists wherever they are in the world. And sort of product-wise, obviously very technical performance products focused with this sort of contemporary fashion aspect into it. I think that really characterizes Panama. And from an ESG perspective or sustainability perspective, I think we've always been very good in having quite a lot of transparency and talking a lot about what we do. I think we're certainly not the best out there, but we're trying to do the best we can. And I think we're really good at sort of talking about it and have a very transparent process in it. We have an impact report we publish every year. We're SBTi committed. So there are a couple of things we really actively following, actively doing in order to think about our responsibility, besides all the things we're doing on the product side and what we already talked about.
Yeah, because on the product side, Robin, in terms of sort of your approach and product development, can you dive in a bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, for us, our baseline, it's to have functional design, especially for performance garments, for all our cycling line, of course. We're going to build materials to perform out there, either for winter condition, rain condition, summer condition. So for sure, that's our baseline on product development, but not only on our performance line, but also on the off-race line, what we call more like our casual line. You will always find also, special features on the garments, either like a key loop or pocket that mimics a bit what we do on cycling. So that's really our fundamental line when it comes to product development. Then we also have a big focus on premium materials. We are sourcing a lot of materials from Italy, from Europe, so that's for us. We want to be a premium brand, so we cannot afford getting let's say the cheapest Lycra. I would make it like this. And also we are now today really data driven, and also really oriented into product feedbacks, because obviously if we get a product out on the market and something really doesn't work, we are on a constant learning path and just trying to improve. I mean, I think even without a new development, we try to improve our product season after season when we can. So
yeah, cool. Now, because we're in the beginning of the year, I thought it would be good to sort of look in on how do you start a year, like with a focus plan. I know that a lot of you out there as well have sort of the yearly calendar and so on and so on, but trying to sort of focus that on clear goals and planning. So for you, Robin, in terms of planning the year,
Yeah.
practically mean for your team, what does that mean?
So our year is divided in 2 seasons
Mm-hmm.
here at Panama. So we have a spring summer season and a fall winter season, which have both their own calendars, but that you can of course retrieve on a full year. But to us, a focus plan mean first like to have a clear product line. Okay, how many new products we have, how many updating products we have, how many carryover we have. So that's also the baseline, and then of course to have a clear path, especially within the product team. Is it like when design needs to give us the tech pack, when we need to give them to the factory, and also have a gate for, of course, each prototypes. And what is the most important for us is also to have those milestones when we have the time to present the collection to the other teams, right? Like to the sales team, to the marketing team, and say, hey, we agreed on that at the beginning of the season. That's where we're at. So those 3 milestones that we call internally gate meetings are really important. The last one being a go or no go for the product.
Cool. And I think
yeah.
also if you look at, so one thing is setting those goals, but are there places where teams most often sort of lose the precision early in the product development team? Is something where you can sort of give a bit of insight into where could it possibly also go wrong?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we also have quite some products, so of course it's not always smooth. But of course, the main thing for me is when the goal is not clear, right? When you have the product brief and we don't really know where to go. Is it for this end use or is it for that kind of end use? Most of the time we ask ourselves, is it for what we call the dedicated cyclist, or it's more for someone that doesn't cycle that much? And if that goal is not clear from the beginning, you can be sure that at the end of the chain, then you will have a lot of confusion, either on what the product can deliver or even what you put on the product in the end, right?
Yeah.
So also, of course, also what can cause that is the misalignment within the different stakeholders, right? Like sales want a product at that price, but they're not really sure, and then you end up in the process being too expensive. So that can be also a big issue. And of course, also late demands, right? We are, as you said at the introduction, it's a market that evolves super quick.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get those pretty late demand. And of course, that's where you are kind of trying to rush everything in. And that's where we can lose precision, of course.
Yeah.
But I think there will always be something that pops up, even though you have
exactly. Everybody is sort of used to the fact that something always pops up, right? That has a really big impact on product development.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, it doesn't have to be set in stone, right? Sometimes you have a goal that in the end we realize that okay, that was maybe not the good one. So I'm not saying that but you need definitely a sign off on like clear with a clear path for sure.
Yeah. So you do sort of if we sort of make it a whole low practical thing, it's about having a collection structure, and then you get the inputs from that from wherever needed to ensure that you sort of set the right goals for those collections, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what we call the range plan. We have all the products, and also we are dividing product also within price category, within let's say importance within the collection. Is it a hero style or is it more core commercial style? That also helping us on, okay, if it's a hero style, maybe it's not let's say the style that's going to make money, but let's do something crazy. Let's put more resources into materials. Let's add this design line. So yeah. Yeah.
And just also curious here, because I think when do you involve your suppliers in this? So the suppliers that Panama is working with, when in your product development phase, do they get involved?
So it really depends also on how heavy the project is, but we have some really clear gates on when we send the tech pack to the factory. So we involve them as soon as the design and the patterns are ready, and that we pick materials, and then through the log we deliver this full package with what we call an item list, where you have all the pieces you have on your garments, and all the technical file, the branding, the pattern, and the target cost. So I think, I mean, to be honest, it's pretty early. I think it's 2 weeks later after the design due to us. So it's super early. And in the case we want to renew a really, really important style when we need to anticipate even more, I would say that we start on fabric trials and finish trials even earlier than giving the final design.
Yeah, because I was also thinking, when you are a technical brand like you are, there must be a lot of requirements in terms of the fabric, that it's long lasting and can endure a lot of different aspects with the different usage cases of the fabrics, and thereby the garments that they have to use, right?
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the balance that it's sometimes hard to get, and I think we'll get to that point a bit later. But as you said, the market is want more and quicker. And on our end, it's sometimes quite hard for us. Like when I'm gonna try to develop with the team a winter jacket, right? We need to try in and out this material for a couple of months with a couple of peoples. So we cannot just say, hey, we pick that and we're good to go. So that's definitely a challenge there, yeah.
Yeah. So when we look at sort of the your process as well, I know we've talked about the collection planning, but there must also be something where we see that, working through your collections and ensuring all of these testing of your garments and so on. How do you sort of juggle that whole process of product development in your team in terms of ensuring all of these different steps? What part of it is sort of required for you to focus a lot on?
I mean, what is requiring for sure on those styles that are key and that needs to perform outside, it's an early choose on fabrics, and of course also have a backup plan, right? That's what we try to do always, and to start early. So also what we can do is, let's say we want to try a new fabric, but for a new style, but let's say we're going to do it on the older style, then we can already implement testing even before we launch the start of the collection, let's say. So to me, that's also quite a big mindset shift. I would say that sometimes you even need to start earlier than what you're required for, and you can need to read through to that for sure.
Yeah. It has to be sort of very long lasting, your thoughts in terms of that you need quite a long period, at least in the product development time, right? Where you have to test it and ensure that all of not only the sort of main fabric, but also the components, I guess, in your garments have to be at a certain quality.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, we always reach, our goal is to get the best quality we can. We really don't want to play cheap either from, like, let's say, a seam tape inside a jacket or to the external fabric, right? So, but of course there is stuff that you can try on the go more, like, when it comes to trims and stuff like this, it's a bit safer. But again, for us, the main thing it's to make sure that those main fabrics perform well outside. And sometimes that can be also critical because we will develop summer things in winter, right? And winter things in summer. So we always need to find a way, sending garments somewhere where it's hot or where it's cold. I mean, that's a quite complex process, I would say.
Yeah. And I can imagine. So if we talk about, like we talked about in the beginning, in terms of the speed thing, I know that, I mean, you have 2 collections a year, so that I guess that sort of also is not the speed as you would see if you had a lot more collections during a year, but still there is still a sort of a need for a speedy process. Is there any ways where you sort of balance that when we talk about speed versus the precision that you need?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we have this kind of, it's not an official guideline, but when it goes too quick and that we feel that we are not ready, especially when it comes to product improvement. We had the case this season when we try to improve product. We're a bit tight. We are not happy with the end result. So we decided, okay, it's not for this season. So that's quite a golden rule we have, where if there is too much speed involved and we are not sure of the end product, for sure we will make sure we take more time and balance. But for me, what is key into being precise and quick, let's say, it's also the data accuracy we give to our supplier within the Delogue system, right? Of course, if I miss half, 1/4 of my fabrics and trims, I will just get delay or process. So for me, also what is a big challenge with my designer is to make sure that the package we give to the factory early in the process is as complete as possible, right? Of course, when you're going to develop new trims and everything, it also comes along the way. But for me, that's a really key element into transparency and communication with our factory partner. And also when it comes to speed, it also comes to flexibility. I think, if it's really a need that we really have in 3 months, then, okay, what is the flexibility we can get? Can we afford that? Yes, no. Okay, then we have a backup plan. And if you want it at that time, then it will be this fabric or this finish, because we don't have the time to ensure this finish being good for bulk production.
Amazing. Now, if we dive over to you, Fabian, because I wanted to sort of dive into the collaboration between you two or your departments. So let's start off with sort of what point does your sustainability and so on enter the product development process? Where do you sort of enter the work that Robin does?
That's a very interesting question. I think we start quite early with that, because in my thinking, we have sort of 4 criteria where we measure a fabric, for example, or a trim when we choose it for a product. That's sustainability, that's the quality, that's the design of it, and the price of it. And so we look into these 4 dimensions and measure a fabric or a trim and try to choose based on these criteria. So our designers, they already go out and look for a fabric that sort of can match these. Okay, we have to meet these requirements. And so when we think about when sustainability enters, then it's already when the designer sort of looks for a fabric and when they choose the different components of the product, and then it goes on to the developers.
Cool. And so that also means that I guess you have sort of quite a big impact in terms of when we talk data points and so on, right? In the beginning, that they ensure that they input all of the correct things that you need further on in the process.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what changes when impact considerations are part of early decisions instead of doing it at this later stage? We hear that, quite a lot in terms of it being a bit too late in the process, that you start to work at, especially sort of the supplier collaboration in terms of ensuring that they have the right documentation and certification and so on, but also, of course, ensuring that the right quality, as you say, and so on, comes from the supplier. So can you sort of talk about why it's important for you guys to have that early impact?
I mean, Robin already talked a little bit about this sort of lengthy process, and you got to be, rather be earlier than later when it comes to product development. So I think because it goes so hand in hand with the design and the development of the product, and in the end, then the production, and then obviously the product needs to be at some point in the store or online available. So this is quite a tight schedule, and I think when you start having some problems in terms of, well, we're resourcing the cotton from the wrong region, or we can't sell this product because it's not safe, we don't have the right documentation or the right certification for this product, then you, in the middle of the process, you start to sort of look for a different fabric or look for a different supplier, and that obviously is not what you want. That delays the whole process. So I think that's why it makes so much sense to start early. And you also don't want to, because it's such a delayed process, you have to think about a value chain. We buying cotton for products that will be launching this year that has been harvested in 25, 24. So, there's such a long delay, and there's a product that has already been harvested, which we sell in a year from now or half a year from now. So there's also this sort of consideration of this long value chain. So you got to be early in choosing the right material rather than later. And I think that has quite an impact.
Yeah. And do you think this is maybe a question for both of you, but I think wanting to know sort of, has it changed anything, this close collaboration? Has it always been this way, or is it something that has evolved over time, that this close collaboration has become sort of a necessity between you guys?
I think regulation has really driven the demand for this much more than we anticipated. And I think we simply didn't do a lot of things before that. So we just went through and picked the fabric we liked, but not really so much thinking about the sustainability considerations. And so now we have to sort of think them into the process from early on.
But what about you, Robin? I think I don't want to touch upon a sore subject or anything, but has it become a bit more difficult for you in product development?
I mean, when it comes against to regulation, the fact to have Fabian being there earlier in the process, I think for me it's just helping, right? Also because sometimes it gives us clear direction, like, okay, we did this or we need that. So it's also, when you look at a fabric catalog or suppliers coming, then for us it's also easier to let's say put stuff on the side and focus on what we want. But of course, and I think we'll come a bit later in the friction that we can find in the product development. But for sure, sometimes when you try to let's say connect all the dots, because it's what the product developer does, right? He works with design and with merchandising and you know, yes, we want this recycled fabric or we want this special fabric. But obviously it does also cost more. And so we are also in always this quite complex equation, I would say, to meet everyone's expectation.
Yeah. And do you, when we talk about the sort of collection planning and so the planning of you and the material decisions and so on, is Fabian a part already there by the planning to sort of set the goals of what you want? Does that create any friction, or is it just smooth sailing, so to speak?
I would say it is more that we have to think, because it's only me working with sustainability, that a lot of that knowledge, a lot of that insights, what is more sustainable, or what can we choose, or because of compliance, or what is more sustainable, this needs to live somewhat with the design and with the developers. So they need to have the tools and the knowledge on hand. And my job is essentially to give it to them when they choose a fabric and when they choose a trim or a factory, that they know what are the requirements we need to sort of meet, and based on that, they sort of independent in thinking sustainability into their decisions early on.
Which is really great, I think, right?
And I don't have the resources to be always there and sit next to them and tell them, well, we can't do this, but we have to do this, or choosing, it doesn't really work like that. So having them independently choosing the fabrics based on the requirements we set out in the beginning, and we talk a lot about this. I try to be very, very vocal and very advocate these requirements with the team. It really helps that they can make these independent decisions.
But is it something that you have in writing? I know some sort of talking about having this like a material guide for them and other guides. Is it something that you've sort of created these guides for the product development to, follow along?
Yes, we do. We have a preferred material list, for example, where we essentially set out the materials we prefer over others. So in a kind of ranking different material types. But we also have clear requirements for our suppliers, what they need to meet and which kind of certifications they have to obtain in order that we be able to work together with them. A lot of that is in written, but also a lot of that is already in the head of our developers and designers. Yeah, they know it.
Yeah, and also what I would like to add is that at the end of the chain, of course, I would say the garment supplier, not on the garment supplier level, we always have a code of conduct to be signed. I mean, we always have a pretty, Fabian, his set of eyes are really, on this, especially when we get a new supplier in. It's not something within the size of the company right now. It's not something that we do every season. But for sure, we have a code of conduct and also a visit to the new factories from our quality manager.
Yeah.
And I do remember last year in one of the factory, we also, request them improvements on different things. So we can also leverage this and making sure we have partners that also follow our own, let's say, guidelines.
Yeah. I mean, luckily we are a company that stays with their suppliers quite closely.
Yeah.
We do have some fluctuation between the suppliers, but most of them suppliers we've been working with for many, many years. And I think that really helps to build this relationship with them. And yeah, they really understand what we expect from them. But when we onboard a new supplier, we have an onboarding procedure where they ask, where they go through the code of conduct, where they have a separate questionnaire they have to go to so give us the data we require from them. And then we require usually also third-party auditing, so we have an idea of, by an independent third party, what is happening at the facility itself.
Yeah. And is it common that, because I think it makes sense that you as a company that has quite high requirements in terms of your products. So I feel it's sort of a necessity for you to work with the same suppliers for a long time to sort of get that quality check in, and they keep that quality high when you find a good supplier.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, also our goal is also to stay as much as we can within Europe. And it's also, it's a handful of suppliers, let's say today. So it's not like we have a book of 50 suppliers within Europe where we can work or where they can meet our requirements. So for sure. And as Fabian say, if we can build a sustainable business, let's say, of course it helps on everything. Nowadays we are also pushed by sales to deliver SMS collection even earlier. That's pretty new for us. And of course the best relationship you get with your own suppliers, then the smoother it will get.
Yeah. All right, let's take the next one, because I think looking into the things that we've sort of discussed throughout, like being an operational excellence, that's really a topic that we at Delogue and even all of our tech partners are also focusing a lot on this year, because it sort of feels like ESG goals, thereby legislations, thereby a lot of different things becomes a sort of a focus on being operational excellence to be in the textile industry. So when we look at this, and also, of course, both from an ESG perspective, a communication perspective, why is that so important to have this clarity, operational clarity? Why is it important right now compared to maybe a couple of years ago, but especially now? Why does that make sense for you guys to sort of really focus on that?
The biggest driver is simply regulational demands. So they expect us to gather so much more information on our products, on the items, on the fabrics, on the terms we use, and the suppliers we work together with. So that has definitely changed. But I think it also goes much to the point Robin was saying earlier. We sell a very technical product, and I think it really demands that we explain well how this product works, what it is made for. And this is something that comes from, a developer and a designer. They think so much about the product, and there's not so much actually transferred down towards the people that sell the product or on in our web shop, for example. So telling more about this product, the story, the use case, the functionality of it, I think that is also something where we as Panama, for example, can also benefit a lot from having this operational excellence and having so much data or more data gathered on the product itself.
Yeah, I mean, can you give an example? I know we've talked about this, Fabian, so I was just curious if you can give sort of the examples we've talked about as well, in terms of, I think you are touching upon the idea of the DPP and how that can become a benefit for you. I think a lot, as everybody knows, I think, is that the DPP, the Digital Product Passport, can for many become sort of a real obstacle, something that we're very afraid of happening. And I think what we've talked about, you and I, Fabian, is that it's also quite nice to think about the DPP as sort of a business opportunity. So can you just talk a bit about that? Because I thought that, what the thoughts that you guys have had are quite interesting.
Yes, sure. So I think the DPP is, well, first of all, I think Panorama is quite a digital company. So we have a good IT digital team that has been working a lot on our website and a lot of the different digital channels we have. And they also have a good influence on our data infrastructure and how we gather that data, so on. And so the past year has been a lot about understanding where's the data we need for, in particular, DPP. Where is it within the company and what needs to happen in order to bring it together to be ready for DPP requirements. But I think when it goes then out to the consumer and how we can use the DPP, then there's a lot around, as I already said, I think explaining the product, explaining the technology, the functionality of it. I think there's so much more to learn about our products and how to use them, and that is currently not passed on. I think the DPP is a really nice way to bring that more closer to the consumer. And then there's a lot around sort of the after sales of a product. So we sell a product and what is happening afterwards, educating around care instructions, how to care your product. We talk about repellency of a product. We talk about, okay, I have a hole in here. What can I do? A repair shop somewhere around the corner. I can bring it there. We also, we're technical products. You can't go to the normal tailor around the corner that alternates your suit pants. They probably can't fix your rain jacket. So you gotta have a tailor that is able to handle these very technical products and have the machines and the skills to handle these. So I think there is so much more opportunity into this. And then we have an ICC, for example, our International Cycling Club, where we bring people closer to the brand and tell them a little more what we do at Panama, the stories, the past racing team, for example. So the stories that happen right and left, not so much product focused, but always in connection to the product. And I think the DPP is a really nice way to also bring that closer to the consumer and have, I don't know, challenges. We just had January resolution in January this year, for example. So there are lots of opportunities to engage more with the consumer around the brand, around the sports, around the community, and so on.
Yeah. And I think, Robin, if you could maybe also talk a bit, because if you say that you do not work in the way that you guys do in terms of having these internal processes and working closely together with each other and so on, what risks do you think that brands could face? What are the sort of risks if you do not have this internal processes in order?
I mean, it's to definitely not reach our end goal that we kind of signed off at the beginning of the season together. And as Fabian said, also, I think we are currently trying to improve on, we spend a lot of time on products, right? To a point that sometimes like we just want product to get out because you had enough of it already. It's not out. But for sure, also, if this internal alignment and data and knowledge is not passed through the different teams, for sure, we have also a lot of missed opportunity, I feel. I can't talk to my friends a lot about this and this fabric that we went to the factory to choose to source, to develop ourselves, which I think for me is an amazing added value as a brand, right? I worked in other brand before, and I think Palomar is great we sometimes, I mean, the fabric we use are so good, and I think for sure we are not aligning in there. We will for sure also miss, I think, sales opportunities. So, yeah.
So just, I've always, since I started these webinars, had a bit of a sort of, let's look into the future kind of thing. And especially when we have two people here that really know a lot about sort of the collaboration between two departments and so on, I think, could you maybe give sort of one thing brands can do tomorrow to improve on this work, on this precision in product development, Robin? I think it could be quite nice to sort of, what would be one thing you would give us advice if they turned off this webinar and tomorrow started doing something?
I think what definitely what can be great to introduce as a brand, it's transparency and clear communication with the two different suppliers. Because for me, it's obviously sometimes a challenge. Within a day, I'm going to speak to an Italian suppliers, to a Lithuanian suppliers, to Vietnamese suppliers, which all work in a different way. So to me, what is great to introduce is, let's say a common language between all of them, and also taking the time to explain what does it mean for you. And also within sharing obviously your calendar, but also what does it mean for you to get the sample at that time? Because, I had the example in the past where I put the date in the log and then this person, but if you have it 3 weeks later, is it okay? And I'm like, actually, I think we miss out on something here, right? Because on both sides, I need this sample at that time to make sure I take the good decisions to potentially have a better product and also give you a better, bigger order, right? So I think a thing that could be great also to have like some sort of shared digital library on fabrics also, I mean, that's a really big job, especially within our own setup right now. We are not set up for that, but I think as long as you can get clear and transparent with your suppliers, to me that's the key, and that's what we do every day, basically, and also trying to onboard them with Delogue. That's where you find the info. That's where you need to fill in information. So yeah, for sure, it's a clear calendar and a clear language, I would say.
Amazing. That's really good advice. Do you have anything to add, Fabian?
Not so much. I would say a very similar thing. I would say that a lot of that data we gather on our products is really key, and it will become more in the future. And starting with this early really helps you. And again, it's not only for compliance reasons. I think you can tell so much more about the product towards the consumer that I think it makes a ton of sense for our brand. I would still point out, I think we work very close with our suppliers and we have a very close collaboration with them, and they use the same system that we use. But I think there is a lot of demand of data, and a lot of that is sort of pushed down to the supplier. So I've been hearing this term of auditing fatigue some years ago, that supplier have been demanded by multiple of their customers to audit with this and this. And so they've been just auditing all the day instead of doing other things. So I kind of feel a little bit the same happening here with the data requests, that I think as a brand, we maybe have a little bit the responsibility also to find the solutions and the tools that they can easily pass on that data without sort of duplicating it and having an individual system for each brand they work together with. So I think there's also this sort of perspective. Obviously, there's more demand for this data, but also where's it come from? What's the impact, the implications of that on people that work in the value chain? Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think either we've answered all the questions. Oh, wait, no.
Nope.
I did actually. There is one question about whether or not we will introduce the Delogue system. I would love to do that. We don't have more time, but we do. I could already now maybe dive into that. As usual, we do have other webinars each month. We have one webinar each month, which we call Delogue Uncovered. So this is a webinar where my colleagues Ulla and Serena is on screen, and they are ready to answer any questions you have for the Delogue system, our PLM system, and any other questions, also ESG related. They're ready to answer that. They always have one topic that they sort of dive into, and if you are following our newsletter or our webinar sign up, then you sort of get that info very soon. Actually, I think she's going to send it out on Monday. So remember to sign up, and then you'll get all of the information on the sort of specific topic, but you're always welcome to ask any questions in terms of that. And other than that, you're always welcome to, of course, reach out if you want to know more about Delogue. I also wanted to shout out a bit about our articles this time, because we, of course, write articles a couple of months, we do about 4 each month, and they're always on our website. And as I mentioned, this year we focus a lot on operational excellence. So a lot of our articles will very much be about what we've also been speaking about today, about ensuring that the teams work smoothly together with the tech solutions that are beneficial for them, and of course with their suppliers and so on. So it becomes a whole work within a company and with their suppliers to ensure a smooth work when we have all of these regulations and requirements that we have to meet. And finally, I am, of course, not letting you go from here without doing a bit of a shout out for our annual event. We have our Tech Threads again this year. It will be on May 12th, and we have rented a very nice space in Copenhagen called Vega, where it's a concert hall in Copenhagen. We rented this, and a lot of our other tech solutions will come, the other partner tech partners will join us. And it's going to be an amazing day with a lot of different keynote speakers and brands on stage and tech solutions on stage to give a good insight on what technology and fashion can really do in this space. So I hope you will join us. It's on our website. You can already sign up now if you want to join us. Now, finally, just wanted to say thank you so much, Robin, Fabian. It's amazing to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And I wish you all a very nice day.